Today, we dive into the world of Star Trek, a show loved by fans for many years. Behind the scenes, things were often different from what most viewers saw on screen. Even dedicated Trekkies might not be aware of the disagreements among cast members or the bold decisions made by the show's creators. Some of the choices that changed how television is made came from the innovations introduced by Star Trek. Secrets about the production process, casting conflicts, and decisions that shaped the series' direction remain hidden to many. While fans have celebrated the stories and characters, few realize the challenges faced during filming or the moments when the crew pushed boundaries to bring new ideas to life. These behind-the-scenes stories reveal a complex world that influenced not only the series, but also television history. By uncovering these details, fans can see how much effort and compromise went into making Star Trek a groundbreaking series. In 1966, the television series Star Trek brought a new kind of science fiction to viewers, but behind the scenes, the cast experienced a complex relationship. William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy, who portrayed Spock, had a tumultuous off-screen relationship marked by tension and occasional clashes. Despite this, they shared moments of passion and private closeness, which sometimes surprised those who only saw their on-screen camaraderie. The cast dynamics were complicated by the pressures of filming such a groundbreaking show. Meanwhile, network officials often criticize the series because of its progressive approach. Star Trek broke traditional boundaries by addressing social issues that were considered controversial at the time. One of the most notable examples was the show's depiction of the first interracial kiss on American television, which was considered daring and challenged many viewers' expectations. This scene sparked discussions about race and equality, reflecting the show's commitment to pushing cultural limits. Although the series faced criticism from some quarters, it remained influential for its boldness and willingness to explore new ideas. The relationships among the cast members, along with the show's willingness to tackle social issues, contributed to its legacy as a trailblazer in television history. Despite the off-screen struggles and the critics' disapproval, Star Trek's innovative spirit persisted, shaping future television storytelling. Certainly, when the television series Star Trek was being created in 1966, producers faced many challenges before it was finally approved for broadcast. Because the show was different from other TV programs of its time, it often stirred controversy. Many scenes and storylines were seen as too daring or provocative by the standards of the 1960s television industry. As a result, several edits were made to the episodes to meet the standards of broadcast networks and their censors. These edits aimed to tone down portions that were considered inappropriate, especially sexual scenes, which were viewed as too risque for general audiences. Despite these efforts to censor certain elements, the show's creators noticed that other illusions and visual effects that were part of the show's futuristic and imaginative storytelling were often ignored or overlooked by the censors. This discrepancy meant that some apparently controversial material was cut, but other parts, which might have been just as provocative or unsettling, slipped through without scrutiny. The approach to editing Star Trek reflected the unusual nature of the show, which often pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable on television at that time. While it struggled to gain approval and faced many restrictions, the series ultimately became iconic and influential, shaping science fiction on TV and inspiring future shows. Even with all the editing, Star Trek remained a groundbreaking program, constantly challenging social norms and depicting a diverse universe full of complex characters and ideas. This contrast between what was censored and what was overlooked highlighted the complex negotiations involved in bringing such a visionary series to the screen. Readers can see that the show's history was marked not only by creative innovation, but also by the ongoing struggle to balance bold storytelling with broadcast standards. Immediately after its debut in 1966, Star Trek became a groundbreaking television series that captured the imagination of viewers worldwide. During its run, the show subtly incorporated references to contemporary issues, including the Vietnam War, through episodes like A Private Little War. This particular episode used small pieces of clothing and brief but meaningful romantic moments to hint at the conflict between moral choices and military intervention, clever imagery that went unnoticed by many viewers but conveyed deeper messages about war and peace. Additionally, the creative team managed to incorporate these subtle hints without making them obvious, allowing the show to address complex topics while maintaining its adventurous spirit. Meanwhile, actor William Shatner, who played Captain James T. Kirk, was known for his high standards and his desire for recognition. He was a very talented actor with big expectations for his role. In the credits, he insisted on using a larger font size to make his name appear more prominent, seeking to give himself more visibility and respect within the series. Furthermore, Shatner wanted the scripts to contain the most words possible in every episode, demonstrating his desire for detailed dialogue and storytelling. His demands pushed the creative team to produce scripts filled with impactful lines, making his character stand out even more. This combination of subtle political commentary and Shatner's insistence on recognition contributed to the unique legacy of Star Trek, which continued to inspire audiences long after its original air date. Certainly, after the success of the original pilot and the approval to produce the first season of the science fiction series, Star Trek faced a major challenge in creating acceptable scripts to fill its episodes. Gene Roddenberry, the creator, and Desilu Studios knew they needed many scripts quickly to keep the series on schedule. However, finding writers who could understand and effectively write science fiction stories was not easy. Many writers had trouble grasping the complex concepts Roddenberry wanted to include, which made the scripts costly and sometimes of lower quality. Because of this, Roddenberry often took on the task of rewriting scripts himself. He would change dialogue, adjust story elements, and sometimes remove parts he didn't like, or that didn't fit his vision. This constant rewriting was a frustrating process for the original writers. Richard Matheson, a well-known author who contributed ideas, and Harlan Ellison, a famous writer who was hired to write an episode, both became upset at how much the scripts were changed. Ellison, in particular, was outraged when Roddenberry heavily edited his script to remove certain themes and elements he considered important. This struggle over scripts and the need for Roddenberry's rewrites made the creative process difficult behind the scenes. Despite these challenges, the series went on to become iconic, but the issues with script approval and Roddenberry's rewriting remained a notable part of its early production history. In the original 1966 TV series Star Trek, the creators made specific choices about characters and scenes to shape the show's tone and storytelling. During the pilot's reshoot, creator Gene Roddenberry decided to remove the character of the female protagonist number 1. This decision was likely influenced by various factors, including network pressure and concerns about the show's dynamics, but Roddenberry chose to retain Spock. He wanted to keep Spock's character consistent, emphasizing his rational yet emotionally detached attitude, which became a hallmark of the series. Spock's character added a unique perspective to the show, balancing scientific logic with occasional hints of emotion, making him a fascinating and memorable figure in Star Trek history. Later in the series, in an episode titled The Enemy Within, the character Janice Rand, played by Grace Lee Whitney, faced a challenging scene. During this episode, Rand encounters an evil version of Captain Kirk, which creates tension and drama. This confrontation was controversial because it was not well explained and seemed to serve little purpose in the story. Many viewers found the scene poorly motivated, feeling it lacked depth or clear reasoning. Additionally, Spock appears in this episode as well, involved in a scene that added to the controversy. Overall, these choices about character decisions and specific scenes, especially the confrontation involving Rand and the presence of the evil Kirk, highlight some of the filming challenges and creative risks taken by the show's producers during the production of the 1966 television series Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry found himself in complex personal relationships that affected both his professional and private life. He was dating both Majel Barrett and Nichelle Nichols at the same time, which ultimately caused him to end his first marriage. This situation added strain to his personal life and influenced his decisions, eventually leading him to marry Majel Barrett, who became a significant part of his life and continued to work alongside him on the show. Meanwhile, Leonard Nimoy, who played the iconic character Spock, quickly became the favorite among the audience. His popularity grew rapidly, and with it came intense public pressure to maintain a certain image. Nimoy faced struggles in handling this attention, and behind the scenes, he dealt with personal issues, including a drinking problem that became more apparent over time. Despite these personal challenges, Nimoy remained committed to his role, often showing up prepared and ready to film each day. The cast and crew noticed his dedication and chose to overlook his struggles because of his professionalism and the high quality of his work. This complex web of relationships and personal difficulties added layers to the story behind the scenes of the groundbreaking science fiction series, revealing how actors and creators balance their personal hardships with their professional commitments in a time when television was rapidly growing in popularity. After the success of the initial episodes, the production of the 1966 TV series Star Trek faced significant challenges related to company control and financial issues. Originally, Desilu, a well-known production company, produced the series in its early days. However, before the start of the second season, Paramount Studios took over the control of the show. This transition was not smooth, as Paramount was facing financial losses from the series and considered selling the program back to the original creator, Gene Roddenberry. The company's financial difficulties meant they had to cut costs wherever possible. As a result, the production team had to be very creative and resourceful. They bypassed many of the usual Hollywood practices that can be costly, especially union rules and procedures. Instead of spending large amounts of money on costumes and sets, the team used a makeshift approach, including using a sweatshop to produce costumes quickly and cheaply. This helped keep the production afloat during tough financial times, but also meant the series looked a bit different from other high-budget shows. The constraints pushed the crew to work smarter and faster, often disregarding many typical studio norms. Despite these hurdles, the show managed to develop a dedicated fan base and become a lasting piece of television history. The issues with company control and tight budgets shaped how the series was made and contributed to its unique style. These struggles reflect the difficulties many TV productions faced in balancing creativity with financial realities during that era. During the 1966 television series Star Trek, the show presented a variety of representations of sexuality, although it did so within the limits of its time. The program included portrayals of heterosexual relationships that were quite clear and often central to the storylines. There were also subtle hints of bisexuality in some episodes, although these were never explicitly labeled or explored in depth. The series even featured partnerships between various animals, which added a touch of humor and imagination to the universe. However, despite these hints and the diversity of relationships shown, the series avoided openly depicting same-sex relationships, likely due to the social norms and broadcasting standards of the 1960s. Actor George Takei, who played Mr. Sulu, later revealed that he was gay, and came out publicly many years after the show aired. His coming out helped shed light on the subtle hints of sexuality in the series. Meanwhile, William Shatner, who portrayed Captain James T. Kirk, never watched himself in the role of Kirk. He found it too emotionally painful to watch his own performances. Additionally, Shatner did not keep any memorabilia from the set of Star Trek, indicating that he perhaps preferred to keep his distance from the show's memorabilia, or that his feelings about the series were complex. Throughout its run, Star Trek was notable for pushing boundaries in some ways while still operating within the constraints of the era's sensibilities. Its approach to sexuality reflected the social attitudes of the 1960s, with some characters and relationships hinting at possibilities that would only be openly explored in later years. Its influence extended beyond entertainment, sparking conversations about diversity and representation in science fiction and television as a whole. After the debut of the 1966 TV series Star Trek, or often known as the original series, the show's composer Alexander Courage faced significant difficulties regarding royalties. Courage had created the memorable and iconic theme music that became instantly recognizable worldwide. However, due to a deal made with the show's creator Gene Roddenberry, Courage lost out on a fair share of the royalties generated from the theme song. Roddenberry claimed half of the revenue, arguing that he had written the lyrics for the theme, even though the lyrics were unsingable, and primarily served as a musical motif rather than a sung component. This dispute caused considerable frustration for Courage, who valued his contribution and felt unfairly treated. Meanwhile, NBC, the network airing Star Trek, was not fully supportive of the show's success. They made several efforts to sabotage its potential popularity. One of their tactics was moving the show to an unfavorable time slot, which meant fewer viewers and less attention. Additionally, NBC cut the show's budget considerably, limiting production quality and making it harder for the series to attract and maintain an audience. These actions were part of a broader effort to diminish the show's visibility and impact, possibly due to concerns about its sci-fi content or other business reasons. Despite these challenges, Gene Roddenberry was not easily discouraged. He actively encouraged Star Trek fans to protest the network's poor treatment. Roddenberry used his influence to inspire viewers to voice their support, and demand better airing conditions for the show. Fans responded passionately, writing letters and rallying around the series. Their protests helped to sustain interest in Star Trek and kept it in public consciousness, even though it faced many obstacles during its initial run. Over time, though the series faced difficulties with royalties and network sabotage, it eventually became a legendary franchise with a dedicated fan base that appreciated the creative efforts of everyone involved. Originally, Gene L. Coon played an important role in shaping the world of Star Trek during its early years. He was responsible for creating the concept of Starfleet Command, which became the central authority in the series. Coon also introduced the Klingons, a fierce alien species that added complexity and drama to the stories. His work helped develop the universe, making it richer and more engaging for viewers. However, despite his creative achievements, Coon eventually decided to leave the show because of disagreements with the series creator, Gene Roddenberry. These conflicts mainly involved differences in how the series should be developed and the direction it was taking. His departure marked a change in the series' creative team, but his contributions continued to influence Star Trek's universe. When the franchise was reimagined by director and producer J.J. Abrams, it brought fresh energy and new ideas to the original concept. Abrams aimed to create a modern version of Star Trek that appealed to new audiences. William Shatner, who had played Captain Kirk, wanted a bigger focus on his character in this new version. This created some disagreements with Abrams, as Shatner felt his role needed to be more prominent. Over time, however, Shatner became more accepting of Abrams' vision and appreciated the new approach. Abrams' take on Star Trek managed to respect the original series while introducing innovative storytelling, leading to renewed interest in the franchise. The various creative minds behind Star Trek, from Coon to Abrams and Shatner, each played a crucial role in shaping the series' history and legacy. Later, viewers and fans learned that the phrase "live long and prosper" was not just a catchphrase but had a special origin. It came from Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, and he saw the gesture at an Orthodox Jewish synagogue ceremony. Nimoy was influenced by this gesture, which is a symbol of goodwill and blessing in Jewish tradition. He decided to use it as part of Spock's character, giving it a deeper meaning and making it famous worldwide. Meanwhile, the show also faced controversy over its costumes. The female characters wore many skirts, which caused complaints from viewers who thought the outfits were sexist. Some people argued that it was unfair to focus on the costumes because male characters also wore similar clothing. Supporters said that the outfits were simply a fashion choice and not a sign of sexism. They believed it was important to look at the story and characters, not just the clothing. Despite the debates, Star Trek became a hit and left a lasting impact on science fiction and television. The phrase "live long and prosper" and the costume choices both reflected the show's mix of cultural influences and bold storytelling. Fans continue to remember these details as part of the show. Although William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy managed to put aside their differences and rekindle their friendship after initial envy and disagreements, there remained some emotional distance between them in later years. Shatner chose not to attend Nimoy's funeral in 2015, a decision that reflected the cooling of their relationship after they had ceased communication. This break in their friendship began after a documentary incident, which apparently strained their connection beyond repair. During the filming of the original Star Trek series, the show portrayed male characters often as objects of admiration and fascination. For example, Michael Forrest, who played the god Apollo in the series, recalled that he had his chest taped and covered with cosmetics to make him appear more appealing and heroic on screen. This practice was part of the show's style, emphasizing the physical appeal of the male actors and reinforcing the idea of males being admired for their looks and strength. The series reflected the era's view of masculinity, where male figures were often admired for their physical attributes, sometimes reducing them to objects of admiration rather than fully developed characters. Despite their on-screen heroism and status as icons of science fiction, the actors' personal experiences with objectification sometimes echoed the show's portrayal of masculinity. Shatner's decision not to attend Nimoy's funeral underscores ongoing personal conflicts, and their story highlights how relationships can change over time, especially under the weight of public and private pressures. The depiction of males in Star Trek and the personal experiences of its actors reveal a layered history of admiration, objectification, and the complex nature of friendship over decades. In 1966, the television series Star Trek captivated audiences with its innovative stories and visionary ideas. However, behind the scenes, tensions arose among the cast members. George Takei, who played Hikaru Sulu, publicly criticized William Shatner, who portrayed Captain James T. Kirk, for a perceived lack of teamwork and cooperation during filming. Takei felt that Shatner's attitude affected the harmony of the cast and their ability to work together smoothly. Despite their on-screen collaboration, this criticism reflected some underlying issues among the actors. Interestingly, despite their on-screen camaraderie, Shatner was not invited to Takei's wedding, which suggested lingering personal differences or disagreements that the public knew little about at the time. Additionally, the original pilot episode of Star Trek, titled The Cage, was rejected by the network because its story was considered too complex and confusing for viewers. The pilot was different from what audiences later saw in the series, featuring a more philosophical and introspective approach. Recognizing that this version might not succeed, creator Gene Roddenberry decided to overhaul the show. He made significant changes by revising the screenplay, simplifying the story, and recruiting new actors to portray the main characters. This process led to the creation of the familiar Star Trek series that would go on to become a cultural phenomenon, though these early disagreements and adjustments reveal the challenges faced during its development. During the filming of the 1966 TV series Star Trek, there were instances of on-set injuries that drew attention to safety concerns. One notable incident involved loud special effects used in the episode called The Apple. These effects caused some performers to suffer inner ear injuries, which led to long-term effects. For example, DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, experienced tinnitus, a ringing in the ears that persisted for over 20 years. This highlighted the dangers of certain sound effects used during filming and brought awareness to the importance of protecting actors' health on set. Meanwhile, plans for future projects related to Star Trek also faced delays. Paramount considered approving a new film that would serve as a prequel about Starfleet Academy, exploring the origins of the famous Starship Cruise. However, this idea was eventually set aside. The studio shifted focus to Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which became the next major film in the franchise. The change was partly because of protests from actors involved in the series and fans who were eager for a continuation of the story or felt certain ideas might not align with their vision of Star Trek. The tension between creative plans and audience expectations contributed to the delay of the prequel project, directing attention instead to the release of Star Trek VI, which aimed to bring the original series to a satisfying conclusion. These events show how the original 1966 series had both its physical challenges behind the scenes and its influence on future Star Trek projects. Despite some setbacks, the series laid the groundwork for what would become a global franchise, inspiring many adaptations and continuations in the decades to come. The injuries suffered by performers like Kelly served as a reminder of the physical risks involved in TV production, while the shifting plans for new films reflected the strong connection fans felt with the characters and stories. Since the debut of the 1966 television series Star Trek, fans have been captivated by many interesting stories behind the scenes. Initially, the character of Spock was meant to have a different look. The creators planned for him to have a red Martian appearance, which would have given him a very alien and striking look. However, they decided to change this idea because the show was made for black and white television. The red appearance might not have shown up well on black and white screens, making it difficult for viewers to see the differences clearly. To keep the character distinctive yet simple to see on black and white sets, the team chose to give Spock a look that worked better for that television format, which ultimately contributed to the iconic look we see today. In addition to the planning for Spock's appearance, the show's production faced a dramatic incident involving a Bengal tiger. On the set of an episode called Shore Leave, a real Bengal tiger was brought in to be part of the scenes. The tiger was meant to add a sense of danger and excitement, but things quickly got out of control. The tiger broke free from its handlers, causing a state of panic among the crew and actors. Everyone was frightened, unsure of what might happen next, but luckily, the situation was brought under control before anyone was hurt. The tiger was subdued safely, and filming continued after the ordeal. This incident became one of the many stories that fans and actors remember about the early days of Star Trek, showing how unpredictable and sometimes dangerous the production process could be. Both stories about Spock's planned appearance and the tiger incident reveal how the series was faced with many challenges during its creation. Despite these hurdles, the team managed to create a show that became a lasting part of television history. These behind-the-scenes events highlight the efforts and risks involved in making Star Trek, as well as the compromises and quick thinking that helped bring the series to life. Fans continue to enjoy watching the show and wonder about the stories behind each episode, knowing that even amidst chaos, iconic characters and moments were born. Initially, it is important to recognize the significant role that Dorothy Fontana played in shaping the original Star Trek television series that debuted in 1966. Because of the gender biases prevalent during that time in the science fiction industry, she often used her initials to ensure her work was taken seriously and not dismissed simply because she was a woman. Her contributions to the series include writing many memorable episodes that have stood the test of time and remain well loved by fans and critics alike. Her storytelling, character development, and ability to craft compelling plots helped define the tone and depth of the original series. Despite the challenges she faced as a woman in a male-dominated field, Fontana's work demonstrated her talent and earned her a lasting place in Star Trek history, influencing many who followed. Meanwhile, Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, held an influential role in the series, shaping its vision and overarching themes. His leadership was crucial during the show's development and initial success. However, after the show's original run, Roddenberry's involvement with the franchise changed, especially concerning the Star Trek movies and subsequent productions. Despite the success of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was released in 1979 and marked a major milestone for the franchise, Roddenberry faced creative conflicts with others involved in the film series. As a result, he was relegated to an unpaid consultant role rather than having the same active involvement as before. This change reflected the ongoing struggles behind the scenes and the different visions team members had for the future of Star Trek. Nevertheless, Roddenberry's foundational ideas and leadership left an indelible mark on the series and its legacy. After the original Star Trek series aired in 1966, Leonard Nimoy faced several conditions regarding his participation in future projects. Initially, Nimoy was hesitant to return for the second film, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, because he had been promised that his character Spock would die in the sequel. This promise influenced his decision to participate, as Nimoy believed it would bring closure to his character's story and allow him to leave the franchise if needed. However, once he returned for the film, the story was revised to keep Spock alive, which pleased many fans, but left Nimoy feeling somewhat betrayed by the initial promise. Despite this, Nimoy's performance in The Wrath of Khan was highly praised, and the film became one of the most acclaimed entries in the franchise. His involvement didn't end there. Nimoy continued to direct several successful Star Trek films, including Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, which was well received and considered one of the most enjoyable movies in the series. These sequels helped solidify his legacy both as an actor and a director within the Star Trek universe. Nimoy's conditions and decisions during this period highlight the complex relationship between actors and their roles, especially when it comes to franchise commitments. His ability to navigate these challenges and contribute significantly to the series' success remains notable. Nimoy's experience with Star Trek illustrates how promises made early on can shape an actor's involvement, and how resilience and dedication can lead to important directing opportunities in the franchise.